I should have died on that operating table. Would have been faster. My name is Marcus Chen. Or it was. Hard to tell when you stop being a person and become inventory. I spent 17 years as a maintenance tech in Corpo Plaza Megatower, level 52, keeping ventilation systems running for executives who would never know my name. Modest salary. Modest life. Modest augmentations. Just what I needed to do the job. Kuroshi optics. Basic reflex boosters. Subdermal grip pads for climbing service shafts. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would catch attention. Nothing that would get me killed. The accident changed everything. One moment, I am calibrating pressure valves in shaft B7. Next moment, the coupling explodes. Superheated steam tears through the confined space like the breath of an angry god. Metal shrapnel spins through the air, each piece a potential death sentence. I remember the pain, brief and absolute, consuming everything else. Then nothing but the smell of burning flesh and emergency sirens wailing through steel corridors. I woke up 3 days later in a clinic I did not recognize. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in sickly green. The ceiling tiles were water-stained, one hanging at a crooked angle like a broken tooth. This was not trauma team. This was not even legitimate. The walls were bare concrete. Medical equipment older than my career bolted to rusted frames. The air tasted of disinfectant, trying desperately to mask something far worse underneath. A woman stood over me. Asian features, chrome jaw replacement, catching the light with each small movement. Her eyes were completely artificial. Not the commercial kind you see on billboards promising better vision and brighter futures, but military-grade optics that tracked my vitals with visible red scanning lasers. Her voice carried the flat professionalism of a butcher discussing cuts of meat. You are awake. Good. Your lungs were slag. 70% surface burns across your torso and arms. Both hands unsalvageable. Standard insurance would not cover it. You know how it is. Pre-existing conditions. High-risk workplace designation. Liability exemptions written in language nobody can understand. I tried to speak. My throat felt raw, scraped clean, each breath tasting of copper and synthetic tissue that did not quite belong to me. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, she continued, not waiting for questions I could not ask. I specialized in emergency reconstruction. Critical cases. You were dying when they brought you in. 40 minutes from complete organ failure. I saved you. New lungs, military surplus, Arasaka Spec Ops grade. Very reliable. Skin grafts. Synthetic but quality bioplastic, will not reject. New hands. Better than your originals, actually. Reinforced spine to handle the weight distribution. Upgraded optics for better workplace performance. Neural interface for seamless integration with all systems. She pulled up a holographic display. Numbers floated in the air between us, glowing orange against the dim room like accusatory ghosts marking my damnation. Total cost, 445,000 eddies. That includes installation, monitoring, 3 weeks of recovery care, and medication to prevent rejection. My heart stopped. 445,000 eddies. I made 32,000 a year before taxes. The math was impossible. The debt was impossible. The words scraped out of my throat like broken glass dragged across concrete. I cannot. Of course you cannot. Dr. Tanaka's expression did not change. Not sympathy. Not contempt. Just the blank efficiency of someone stating mathematical facts. Nobody can. That is exactly why we have payment plans. You will work. You will pay. Standard terms, 20% of all income, minimum monthly payment of 4,000 eddies, interest rate of 8% annually. Miss 2 consecutive payments, and we renegotiate terms under less favorable conditions. She leaned closer. I could see my reflection in her chrome jaw, pale and terrified. Parts of my face still covered in regeneration mesh that looked like spider webs across raw pink skin. You signed the contract while unconscious. Standard emergency consent protocol. Your biometrics confirmed agreement while you were under sedation. Neural patterns do not lie. All legal. All documented. All enforced by the finest lawyers corporate money can retain. The room tilted sideways. 20% of my income. 4,000 eddies minimum monthly. For how long? I did the math. My new optics calculating faster than my old ones ever could, numbers scrolling across my vision, unbidden like a death sentence written in glowing text. 14 years, minimum. Assuming I never missed a payment. Assuming I kept my job. Assuming nothing else went wrong in a city where everything eventually went catastrophically wrong. Rest up, Mr. Chen. Physical therapy starts tomorrow at 6 in the morning. The faster you recover, the faster you work. The faster you work, the faster you pay. Simple economics. She turned toward the door, her footsteps echoing on concrete. Then she paused, looking back over her shoulder with those dead artificial eyes. Oh, and one more thing. Do not think about running. The cyberware I installed, it is all registered to my clinic, traceable through every scanner in Night City, remotely accessible if necessary for recovery purposes. You are not the first person who has considered disappearing. The others learned quickly that it is impossible. The door hissed shut with mechanical finality. I lay there, staring at water-stained ceiling tiles, feeling the weight of foreign hardware inside my chest. Each breath came too easy. The new lungs were efficient, probably better than organic ones, pulling oxygen from air that would have choked my old body. My hands rested on the thin medical blanket, smooth synthetic skin covering reinforced frameworks underneath. I flexed my fingers. Response time was incredible. Strength I had never possessed before flowing through artificial tendons. I was improved, enhanced, upgraded beyond my old limitations. I was also owned. 2 months later, I was back at work. The company welcomed me with the enthusiasm of people checking off a liability form. My supervisor, Rodriguez, a man with a beer gut spilling over his belt and cheaper second-hand augments than mine, handed me my new assignment roster without meeting my eyes. You will be pulling double shifts until you are current on medical obligations, he said, scrolling through his tablet with disinterested efficiency. Company policy. Cannot have employees distracted by financial issues affecting workplace performance metrics. The other techs avoided me now. They had seen it before. Someone comes back from near death loaded with premium chrome they cannot afford, buried under debt that would take decades to clear. I was a walking reminder that survival in Night City came with a price tag nobody could actually pay. So I worked. 12-hour shifts became 14. 14 became 16. I climbed through service shafts with my new hands, their grip pad superior to anything I had used before, holding me steady on vertical surfaces that would have been impossible previously. My enhanced lungs never complained about thin air at extreme altitudes where other techs needed supplemental oxygen. My upgraded optics spotted maintenance failures before they became critical, projecting system diagnostics directly onto my vision in convenient overlays. I was a better worker, more efficient, more valuable to the company, more deeply in debt. Because every injury, every strain, every moment of wear and tear on my new parts required maintenance. Doctor, Tanaka's clinic held exclusive service rights, written into the installation contract in language I could not challenge, even with a lawyer I could not afford. Each monthly checkup cost 800 eddies. Each adjustment cost 1,200. Each replacement part, and there were always parts that needed replacing, always components that failed just before warranty expiration, added thousands to my balance. The debt grew. 445,000 became 463,000, then 491,000. Interest accumulated daily at compound rates that multiplied faster than I could calculate. Service fees stacked monthly like layers of concrete, burying me deeper. I was paying, always paying, transferring credits with desperate regularity, but the number only climbed higher. 6 months in, I missed my first payment. The message came at 3 in the morning, jarring me from thin sleep in my coffin apartment. 6 feet by 3 feet of personal space in a vertical stack of 200 identical units. Text scrolled across my vision, projected directly onto my retinas by the optics Dr. Tanaka installed, impossible to ignore or dismiss. Payment overdue. 4,000 eddies. Grace period, 72 hours. Failure to comply will result in asset recovery protocol. Asset recovery. I'd heard the term whispered before. Everyone in Night City had. Stories shared in break rooms over synthetic coffee. Warnings passed between workers in hushed voices when management was not listening. The corpo version of debt collection, clinical and absolute as a scalpel cutting through flesh. I scraped together 3,200 eddies, 800 short of what I needed. Sold my old apartment furniture to a pawn shop that barely looked at it before lowballing me into desperation. Family photos I had kept in storage went to a data recycler for pocket change. My father's antique mechanical watch, the only inheritance I had ever received. The only connection to a past before Night City consumed everything, sold to a collector for a fraction of its sentimental value. I showed up at Dr. Tanaka's clinic with the cred stick in my shaking hand, hoping Mercy existed somewhere in her chrome-enhanced body. She scanned it. The machine beeped, displaying the amount in cold blue digits. Her expression remained neutral, carved from ice and corporate efficiency. "You are still 800 eddies short, Mr. Chen." "I know. I will have it next week. I am picking up extra shifts. There is overtime available in Maintenance Sector 7. I have already talked to Rodriguez about extended hours and weekend coverage." The agreement was explicit. Minimum payment in full. Not partial, not promises of future compliance. "Please, I'm trying. I just need a little more time. 1 week, 7 days. I swear I will have it." She studied me for a long moment. Her artificial eyes whirred softly, focusing and refocusing on my face, probably running stress analysis algorithms, measuring pupil dilation and sweat production to gauge the depth of my desperation. Then she nodded slowly. "I will make a note in your file. One-time grace extension. 7 days from now, full payment plus a 200 eddy late fee." "But Mr. Chen?" Her voice dropped lower, acquiring an edge that made my new spine shiver with instinctive fear. "Do not make me regret my compassion. I do not extend it often. Some would say I should not extend it at all." I left feeling like I had dodged a bullet, like I had been granted a second chance by a merciful God in a godless city. Like maybe somehow, if I worked hard enough and slept little enough, I could dig my way out of this crushing hole. I was stupid. So goddamn stupid. The next week, everything collapsed with the suddenness of a building demolition. The company announced restructuring, efficiency improvements, shareholder value optimization, paradigm shifts in operational philosophy. All the corporate buzzwords that meant one thing: layoffs. My entire department got consolidated. 50 maintenance techs became 20 through the magic of algorithmic workforce analysis. I was not one of the 20. Severance package. 2 weeks' pay deposited to my account with automated efficiency. Health insurance terminated immediately. No coverage for pre-existing augmentations or ongoing medical needs. Job prospects. Functionally zero. My specialized certifications were corpo-specific, locked behind proprietary systems, worthless outside their corporate ecosystem. My enhanced augmentations were clinic-registered, flagged in every employment database as carrying substantial debt obligations. Nobody wanted to hire someone else's financial liability. Too much risk. Too many complications. Too many questions from creditors. I tried finding work. Spent days walking Night City's lower levels, going to interviews in dingy offices, filling out applications on cracked terminals covered in graffiti and dried fluids. Small repair shops, independent operations, fixers looking for muscle with technical skills. Everyone ran my identification through their systems, saw the debt markers glowing like warning signs, shook their heads with something approaching pity. "Sorry, Chum. Cannot take the risk. Clinic comes looking for payment. We do not want that heat on our operation." 3 weeks passed in a blur of rejection. Then 4. My savings evaporated like water on hot concrete under the merciless sun. The coffin apartment management started sending notices. Payment overdue. Final warning. Eviction proceedings initiated. I ate once a day. Cheap synth protein bars from vending machines that tasted like cardboard mixed with chemicals, leaving my mouth coated in artificial residue that never quite washed away. My body stayed healthy. The augmentations kept me alive with ruthless efficiency, maintaining optimal organ function, regulating temperature, filtering toxins. I just had nothing to live for except debt. The second missed payment came and went. No grace period this time. No compassionate extension. Just a new message burning across my vision like hot iron. Asset recovery protocol initiated. Report to Tanaka Clinic within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in immediate retrieval. I did not go. I had heard too many stories, knew exactly what asset recovery meant in practical terms. They would put you on the table, sedate you with the minimum necessary drugs, and pull out everything they had installed. Every augmentation, every enhancement, every piece of hardware that made you functional. If you were lucky, you would wake up afterward with whatever organic parts managed to keep you breathing. If you were not lucky, well, nobody tracked death certificates of people who defaulted on medical debt. So I ran. Not far. You cannot run far in Night City when every street camera, every corporate scanner, every police drone is networked into the same interconnected systems tracking your debt status in real time. I found a squat in Northside Watson, an abandoned factory that once manufactured something nobody remembered anymore. 30 people, maybe 40, living in the corners of a massive space filled with rusted machinery and broken conveyor belts that had not moved in decades. We did not use names, did not ask questions about where people came from or what they were running from. Everyone there was fleeing something. Debt, warrants, corpo contracts, gang obligations, family vendettas, broken promises, shattered lives. We pooled resources, shared the little we had, watched each other's backs against the predators that hunted Night City's forgotten. For 2 months, I thought I was safe. Thought maybe I could disappear into the cracks of the city, become another nameless face in the endless crowd of the dispossessed. Then the scavengers came. It was 2 in the morning when they hit. 7 of them, moving through the factory with practiced confidence. People who had done this 100 times in 100 different locations across the city. They wore mismatched gear, tracksuit pants, tactical vests, Soviet-era cyberware that hummed with poorly maintained systems. One had a voice synthesizer that crackled with distortion, his words barely intelligible through electronic static. Nobody moves, everybody on the fucking ground, hands where we can see them or we start shooting. We scattered like rats fleeing light. Instinct overrode common sense. People ran in every direction, looking for exits, for weapons, for anywhere to hide in a space designed with nowhere to hide. I made it 3 steps toward a service door before one of them hit me with a shock baton. Every muscle in my body seized simultaneously. I collapsed, twitching uncontrollably, unable to scream though my lungs tried with mechanical desperation. My enhanced nervous system actually made it worse. The electrical signals traveled faster through upgraded pathways, registered more clearly in augmented nerve clusters, lasted longer than they should have in organic tissue. Rough hands grabbed me, zip-tied my wrists behind my back with practiced speed. Someone scanned my face with a handheld device that beeped triumphantly. Got a live one. Chen, Marcus, outstanding debt, 537,000 eddies. Registered hardware, military-grade lungs, reinforced spine, neural interface, custom optics. Premium fucking parts, Choom. The man with the voice synthesizer leaned over me. His eyes were dark pits behind scratched optics, predatory and empty of anything resembling mercy or humanity. Your Ripper Doc sent us, friend. Said you have not been returning her calls. Very rude, very unprofessional. Bad for business relationships. They dragged me to a van parked in the alley, threw me in the back with 3 other people. A woman with bioluminescent tattoos that still glowed faintly in the darkness. A kid who could not be older than 16 with tears streaming down his face. An old man with more metal than flesh left on his body. We did not speak, just sat there in the darkness, hands bound, listening to the van's engine rumble and the sound of Night City passing outside like a river of light and violence and indifference. The scavenger den was in Pacifica, in a building that had been condemned 15 years ago and never demolished. They hauled us inside like cargo, downstairs that reeked of mold and human waste, into a basement filled with operating tables and industrial lights hanging from chains. The walls were stained dark, not rust. Blood that had soaked into concrete over months or years. Dr. Tanaka was waiting. She stood beside one of the tables, wearing a surgical apron over her usual clothes, her chrome jaw catching the harsh light from above. Behind her, equipment hummed with lethal efficiency. Vitals monitors, anesthesia dispensers, organ preservation units, everything needed to systematically harvest augmentations from unwilling donors. Mr. Chen, she did not smile, did not frown, just gestured to the table with one gloved hand. You have forced my hand. I gave you opportunities, extensions, grace periods, more chances than I give most clients. You chose to run instead of facing your contractual obligations. Two scavengers grabbed my arms, started dragging me toward the blood-stained table. Please, I said, the word catching in my throat like fishhooks. Please, I will pay, I will work, I will do anything, just do not. You had your chance to work, to pay, to honor the contract you signed with your neural patterns. She pulled on fresh surgical gloves, the latex snapping against her wrists with sharp finality. Your augmentations are worth 280,000 eddies on the black market. After recovery costs, resale processing, and payments to my associates here, I will clear approximately 200,000. Not ideal, but acceptable given your default status. They strapped me down. Wrist restraints biting into synthetic skin. Ankle restraints locked tight. A strap across my chest so tight I could barely breathe despite my enhanced lungs pulling oxygen with mechanical efficiency. The operating light blazed above me, so bright everything else faded to shadows and nightmare shapes. Dr. Tanaka leaned over me, her face inches from mine, her artificial eyes reflecting my terror in sterile chrome. I will start with the lungs. They are the most valuable, highest resale priority. Then the spine implants. The neural interface, the optics last. I will leave your original organs, what is left of them after the accident. You will survive. Probably. Medical probability calculations put you at 63%. But you will not work again, will not run again, will not be anything but a warning to my other clients about what happens when you do not pay your debts. She reached for an anesthesia mask, paused, looked at one of the scavengers standing nearby with blood-stained hands. Half dose. I want him conscious for the first extraction. Makes the others more compliant when they hear the screaming. Better for business efficiency. The mask came down over my face. Chemical smell filled my nose and mouth, acrid and overwhelming. My vision blurred at the edges, but not completely. I could still feel everything. The cold table against my back, the restraints cutting into my skin, the pressure in my chest from the strap crushing my ribs. Dr. Tanaka picked up a scalpel. The blade gleamed under the surgical light, impossibly sharp, designed to cut through synthetic skin and reinforce tissue with equal ease. Medical-grade steel that cost more than most people made in a month. She positioned it above my sternum, right where the incision would need to start to access my lungs, right where she had cut me open months ago to save my life. Any last words, Mr. Chen? I tried to speak. My throat was too dry, tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. My new optics, the ones she had installed, the ones she now legally owned, projected one final message across my fading vision. Total debt outstanding, current payment status, terminal default, asset recovery in progress, estimated survival rate, 63%. The scalpel descended toward my chest, catching light like a falling star. And I understood with perfect crystalline clarity purchased with blood and chrome what happens to people who cannot pay their debts in Night City. They do not die. That would be mercy. They get recycled. The blade touched my skin, cold metal against synthetic flesh, pressure building, the sharp edge beginning to part tissue layer by layer with surgical precision. Pain exploded across my chest, white hot and absolute, cutting through the partial sedation like lightning through fog. I screamed. The sound tore from my throat, raw and animal, echoing off concrete walls. In the periphery of my fading vision, I saw the other captives flinch. The woman with glowing tattoos turned her face away. The kid started sobbing harder. The old man just stared with dead eyes that had seen this before. Dr. Tanaka worked with mechanical efficiency. The scalpel moved in practiced strokes, cutting deeper, opening my chest cavity with the confidence of someone who had done this countless times. Blood welled up, my enhanced cardiovascular system pumping it faster than organic veins ever could. "Retractor," she said calmly. One of the scavengers handed her a tool. Metal arms spread my ribcage apart with a sickening crack. The pain transcended anything I thought possible. My new nervous system transmitted every sensation with perfect clarity, holding me prisoner in my own body. Through the agony, through the chemical haze, I felt her hands inside my chest cavity. Felt her disconnect tubes and wiring. Felt the artificial lungs that had kept me breathing with perfect efficiency begin to separate from my body. Then something changed. A sound from above. Distant at first, then growing louder. Rapid footsteps. Shouting. The distinctive crack of gunfire echoing through the building's upper floors. Dr. Tanaka paused, hands still inside my chest, looking toward the ceiling with those dead artificial eyes. "What the hell is that?" one of the scavengers said, reaching for a weapon. The gunfire grew closer, louder, more intense. I could hear different weapons now. The sharp report of pistols, the deeper boom of shotguns, the electric whine of tech weapons, and screaming, so much screaming. The basement door exploded inward. Through my blurred vision, through tears and pain and chemicals, I saw figures pour into the room. Not police, not corpo security, something else entirely. They wore mismatched combat gear, moved with military precision, and their weapons were far too high grade for typical street gangs. The fight lasted maybe 30 seconds. The scavengers reached for their weapons but never had a chance. The attackers moved like they had done this before. Knew exactly where everyone would be, exactly how they would react. Shock rounds hit the scavengers before they could aim. Smart bullets curved around corners to find targets trying to hide. One scavenger managed to fire back before a shotgun blast took him down. Then silence. Just the ringing in my ears and my ragged breathing through damaged lungs. Someone approached my table. A woman, late 30s, cybernetic arm gleaming chrome. Tattoos covering what organic skin remained. Her eyes were hard but not cruel. She looked at Dr. Tanaka, who still stood frozen beside me, hands covered in my blood. "Step away from him." Dr. Tanaka did not move. "This is a legal debt collection. I have documentation. Contracts signed with proper consent protocols." The woman raised her weapon, a heavy pistol that looked like it could punch through concrete. I said, "Step away." Dr. Tanaka removed her hands from my chest cavity, stepped back slowly, calculated surrender written across her chrome features. The woman looked down at me, at the gaping wound in my chest, at the partially disconnected lungs, at the restraints holding me to a blood-soaked table. "You are Marcus Chen," I tried to speak, only managed a wet gurgle. "Medical emergency response incoming," she said into a comm device. "Multiple trauma patients. Priority Alpha on the main target." Two more people appeared beside her, both wearing tactical medical gear. They moved with practiced urgency, reconnecting what Dr. Tanaka had started to remove, stabilizing bleeding, injecting something that made the pain fade to distant thunder. "Who?" I managed to whisper. "Who are you?" The woman leaned closer. "Someone who does not like what the Ripperdocs have been doing to people in this city. Someone who has been tracking Tanaka's operation for 6 months. You are not the first person we have pulled off one of her tables, Chen. You are just the lucky one tonight." They loaded me onto a stretcher. As they carried me toward the stairs, I saw the other captives being freed. The woman with tattoos, the crying kid, the old man who had seen this before. All of them being checked by medics. All of them being given the same desperate chance at survival I was receiving. I passed Dr. Tanaka on the way out. She stood against the wall, hands restrained behind her back, watching everything she had built being dismantled. Her expression remained neutral, empty, like this was just another setback in a long career of predation. Our eyes met for a moment. She did not speak, did not threaten or plead or show any emotion at all. Just watched as they carried me away, her chrome jaw catching light one final time. I never saw her again. The next weeks passed in fractured memories. Surgery. Real surgery. In a legitimate clinic with actual medical staff who cared whether their patients lived or died. They repaired what Dr. Tanaka had damaged, reconnected what she had started to harvest, stabilized systems that had begun to fail. I woke up in a hospital bed with white sheets and windows showing actual sky. The woman with the chrome arms sat in a chair beside me, reading something on a tablet. She looked up when my eyes opened. "Welcome back. You have been unconscious for 5 days. The doctor said you would probably make it. 78% chance. Better odds than most." My throat was dry. "Why did you save me?" "Because what the Ripper docs are doing is predatory. Legal, technically, but predatory. They install chrome people cannot afford, bury them in debt with impossible terms, then harvest them when they inevitably default. It is a cycle designed to profit from desperation. We are working to break that cycle. Who funds this? Who pays for all this?" She smiled slightly. "People who have money and conscience. Rare combination in Night City, I know. But they exist. Enough of them to make a difference anyway. Your surgery was covered. Your debt to Tanaka has been legally dissolved. Her clinic is under investigation. You are free." Free. The word sounded foreign. Impossible. What about the others? The people she hurt before me? We are trying to help them too. But resources are limited. Time is limited. We save who we can when we can. Sometimes that feels like trying to empty the ocean with a spoon. But we keep trying. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Your augmentations are still functioning. We did not remove them. They are yours now, properly registered, no debt attached. What you do with your second chance is up to you. But if you ever want to help other people avoid what happened to you, we could use someone with your experience." Then she was gone. I spent another week recovering, learning to walk again, learning to breathe without wincing from chest pain, learning to exist without the constant crushing weight of impossible debt. The other patients in the clinic were like me. People pulled from desperate situations. People given second chances they never thought possible. We did not talk much, just shared looks of understanding. Survivors recognizing other survivors. When they finally discharged me, I had nowhere to go. My old apartment was long gone. My old job no longer existed. My old life had burned to ash in that factory explosion months ago. But I had the contact information the woman with the chrome arm had given me. I called it. 2 days later, I started working for them. Not as a fighter or a medic, as someone who understood the systems, the contracts, the predatory mechanisms that Ripperdocs like Tanaka used to trap people. I helped identify victims before they reached the harvesting table, helped document evidence for investigations, helped pull people from the same nightmare I had barely escaped. The work was hard. The pay was modest. The hours were long, and the victories were small and temporary. But every person we saved felt like redemption. 3 months after my rescue, I was tracking another case. Another Ripperdoc, different clinic, same predatory model. A young woman named Sarah had missed payments, was scheduled for asset recovery. We had 48 hours to intervene. I was reviewing her file when my optics flagged something. A news alert pushed to everyone in Night City with active neural connections. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, prominent Ripperdoc, found dead in her apartment. Apparent suicide. Investigation ongoing. I stared at the alert for a long time. Part of me felt nothing. She had tried to kill me, tried to harvest me like livestock, shown zero remorse for the countless people she had destroyed. Her death changed nothing about the system that enabled her. But part of me felt something else, something darker, because I knew it probably was not suicide. Knew that in Night City, people who became liabilities to powerful interests tended to die conveniently. Maybe her corpo backers decided she had become too much of a risk. Maybe her scavenger associates decided she knew too much. Maybe someone she had harvested years ago finally got revenge. I would never know the truth. The news cycled to the next story. Another shooting, another corpse scandal, another day in Night City where life was cheap and chrome was expensive. I closed the alert and went back to Sarah's file. She needed help. She needed intervention. She needed what I had received, a chance to escape the machine designed to consume her. The work continued. 6 months later, the woman with the chrome arm, whose name I learned was Victoria, called an emergency meeting. All of us who worked the rescue operations gathered in a secure location, a repurposed warehouse with signal jammers and armed security. She stood before us, her expression grave. The investigation into Tanaka's clinic revealed something bigger than we expected. She was not operating independently. There is a network. Multiple clinics across Night City, all using the same predatory model, all feeding into the same black market pipeline, all protected by the same corpo interests. She pulled up a holographic display. Names, locations, financial connections, a web of corruption and predation spanning the entire city. We have documented evidence, testimonies from survivors, financial records showing millions of eddies flowing through this system annually. But taking it down will be dangerous. The people running this have resources we cannot match. They will fight back. Hard. She looked at each of us in turn. I am not ordering anyone to continue. This is volunteer work. If you want out, no judgment. But if you want to help, we are going after the entire network. Starting next week. Nobody left. We spent the following days planning, coordinating with sympathetic journalists, building legal cases with lawyers who still believed in something beyond profit, preparing rescue operations for victims across multiple clinics. The night before we went public with everything, I stood on the rooftop of our safe house, looking out over Night City. Millions of lights stretching to the horizon. Millions of people living and dying and struggling in the spaces between the lights. Somewhere down there, people were signing contracts they could not read, receiving augmentations they could not afford, taking on debt they could never repay. The cycle continued. The machine kept grinding. But maybe, just maybe, we could throw a wrench into that machine. The next morning, the story broke everywhere. Every news outlet, every data stream, every social media platform. Hundreds of testimonies, mountains of evidence. The full scope of the predatory medical debt system laid bare for everyone to see. The response was immediate and chaotic. Some people were outraged, demanding justice, calling for investigations and arrests. Others defended the system, argued it was just business, claimed the victims should have read their contracts more carefully. Corporate media tried to bury the story. Independent journalists kept pushing it forward. 3 clinics shut down within a week. 5 Ripper docs were arrested. 2 corpo executives resigned under pressure. It was not enough. Not nearly enough. The system was too big, too entrenched, too profitable to kill with one expose. But it was something. A crack in the armor. A moment of accountability in a city that usually offered none. And people started talking, sharing their own stories, supporting each other, building networks of mutual aid to help those trapped in medical debt. Small acts of resistance against a system designed to crush them. I kept working, kept helping where I could, kept pulling people from tables and contracts and situations designed to destroy them. The debt system did not disappear. Probably never would. But more people understood it now. More people fought against it. More people survived. A year after my rescue, I sat across from a young man named David at a cheap noodle shop. He had been 3 days from asset recovery when we intervened. Now he was free, trying to rebuild his life, looking for work that would not exploit him. "What do I do now?" he asked. "I mean, I am grateful to be alive, but everything still feels impossible. The city still feels like it is designed to kill people like us." I thought about my answer carefully, about everything I had learned, about the scars on my chest that still ached sometimes, about the people we had saved and the people we had failed to save. "The city is designed to kill people like us," I said. "That is the truth, but knowing that truth means you can fight it. You cannot change the whole system alone. Nobody can. But you can help the person next to you. You can share information. You can resist in small ways. And sometimes, if enough people resist in small ways, it adds up to something bigger." He nodded slowly, processing. "Is it enough though? Does it actually change anything?" I thought about Dr. Tanaka's clinic shut down, about the other clinics under investigation, about Sarah and David and dozens of others now living instead of dying, about the countless people I would never meet who might read a contract more carefully or ask more questions or find help before it was too late. "I do not know," I said honestly. "Maybe not, but it is better than doing nothing. And sometimes better than nothing is all we have." We finished our noodles in silence. Outside, Night City continued its endless dance of light and violence and desperate survival. Somewhere out there, another person was signing a contract they did not understand. Another person was missing a payment. Another person was running out of time, but also somewhere out there. People like Victoria were planning rescues. People like me were tracking cases. People like David were getting second chances. The machine kept grinding, but we kept fighting it. 2 years after everything started, I was contacted by someone from my old life. Rodriguez, my former supervisor from Corpo Plaza. He looked older on the video call, more tired, like the weight of the city had settled deeper into his bones. Chen, I heard what you have been doing. The rescue work, the investigations. What do you want, Rodriguez? He hesitated. I want to help. I have been watching what happened to you. What happened to others? I ignored it for years because it was easier that way, but I cannot anymore. I have access to corporate databases, employee records. I can help identify people at risk before it is too late. I studied his face, looking for deception or ulterior motive. Saw only guilt and something that might have been conscience waking up after a long sleep. Why now? Because I sent 3 people to Tanaka's clinic over the years. Told them she was reliable. Told them the debt was manageable. All 3 of them ended up on her table. 1 died, the other 2, he closed his eyes. The other 2 survived, but they are not really alive anymore. I carry that, and I am tired of carrying it alone. So Rodriguez joined us. Then others. Former Ripperdoc assistants disgusted by what they had witnessed. Corporate security who had looked the other way too many times. Even a few fixers who realized the medical debt system was killing their potential clients. The network grew. We were not heroes. Not even close. We still failed more often than we succeeded. The system adapted, found new methods, continued grinding people into meat and profit. But we adapted too. Learned. Improved. Saved who we could. 3 years after my rescue, I received a message from an encrypted source. No name. No identification. Just an address and a time. I almost ignored it. Could have been a trap. Could have been corpo assassins or vengeful scavengers or any of 100 threats we had accumulated. But something made me go. The address was a rooftop bar in Corpo Plaza, expensive and exclusive. I did not belong there with my second-hand clothes and rescue worker credentials. But the security let me pass with a nod, like they had been told to expect me. She sat at a corner table overlooking the city. Well-dressed, corporate professional, augmentations that probably cost more than I would make in 5 years. But her eyes were tired, haunted. Mr. Chen, thank you for coming. I was not sure you would. I sat across from her, wary. Who are you? Someone who has been following your work. Someone who understands what you are fighting against because I helped design it. My blood ran cold. You work for the clinics? I worked for the corporations that fund them. Financial optimization. Profit margin analysis. I designed the contract structures that trap people in unpayable debt. Made them legally bulletproof. I am very good at my job. Then why am I here? She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her drink. Because I am dying. Actual biological death, not something Chrome can fix. 6 months, maybe less. And I have been thinking about what I leave behind. The systems I built. The people they destroyed. Your name came up in some corporate security reports. You are making them nervous. That is when I started paying attention. She slid a data chip across the table. Everything. Contract templates. Corporate connections. Financial flows. Names of executives who profit from the system. Legal vulnerabilities we tried to hide. All of it. Enough to build real cases. To shut down the entire network if you use it correctly. I looked at the chip like it might explode. Why give this to me? Because I cannot fix what I did. Cannot bring back the people my systems killed. But maybe I can help you tear it down. Maybe that is worth something. Maybe it is not. But it is all I have left to offer. She stood to leave, then paused. My name is Jennifer Park. You will probably see it in the data. I authorized a lot of terrible things. When you read it all, you will likely hate me. That is fair. I hate myself. But use it anyway. Make it count. Then she walked away, disappearing into the corporate crowd like a ghost fading into fog. I sat there for a long time. The data chip heavy in my hand, looking out over Night City. Millions of lights. Millions of stories. Millions of people trapped in systems designed to consume them. But now, I held a weapon against those systems. Victoria and I spent weeks analyzing Jennifer Park's data. It was worse than we imagined. Deeper, more organized, more protected, but also more vulnerable if we struck correctly. We built our case carefully, coordinated with journalists, lawyers, activists, and a few sympathetic politicians, waited for the right moment. 6 months after receiving the chip, we went public with everything. The fallout was massive. Arrests, resignations, corporate collapses, legal reforms, the entire predatory medical debt system exposed in detail, so complete that even the most corrupt officials could not ignore it. It did not solve everything. Some executives fled to orbital stations beyond legal reach. Some clinics rebranded and continued operating under new names. The system adapted and survived because that is what systems do. But it was different now. Weaker, more visible, harder to operate in the shadows. And people had alternatives. Community clinics, honest ripper docs, support networks, ways to survive without becoming prey. Jennifer Park died before seeing the results. I visited her grave once, an expensive plot in a memorial park reserved for corpo elite. Left flowers, though I was not sure why. Maybe because she tried to fix what she broke. Maybe because redemption is complicated. 5 years after my rescue, I was training new people for the network, teaching them how to identify victims, how to navigate legal systems, how to stage interventions safely. The work had grown beyond anything Victoria or I imagined. One of the new recruits was young, eager, covered in budget augments. She reminded me of myself before everything happened. "Do you think we are actually winning?" she asked after a training session. "Or are we just delaying the inevitable?" I thought about my answer, about Dr. Tanaka bleeding me on that table, about Victoria saving my life, about Jennifer Park trying to atone, about everyone we had helped and everyone we had failed. "I think we are fighting," I said. "And sometimes fighting is enough. Not because it changes everything instantly, but because it changes what is possible. Every person we save proves the system can be resisted. Every clinic we shut down makes the next one think twice. Every story we share makes someone else more careful. It adds up slowly, but it adds up." She nodded, processing this. "And if it never completely changes? If the system always finds a way to survive? Then we keep fighting anyway. Because the alternative is letting them win without resistance, and I refuse to give them that satisfaction." Now 7 years after waking up in Dr. Tanaka's clinic, I walk Night City streets with different eyes. I see the advertisements for easy augments. I see people signing contracts at kiosks without reading them. I see Ripperdoc clinics on every corner promising miracles on credit. But I also see the community support networks we built, the warning systems, the legal aid stations, the safe houses, the resistance. The debt system still exists. People still get trapped, still suffer, still die. But more people survive now. More people know the truth. More people fight back. And sometimes, when I am training someone new, or pulling someone from a table, or exposing another predatory clinic, I think about what that young recruit asked me. Are we winning? I still do not have a complete answer. Maybe there is no complete answer. Maybe in a city like Night City, victory is measured differently. Not in final triumphs, but in daily resistances. Not in destroying the system, but in helping people survive it. I carry scars, physical and otherwise, reminders of what almost happened, what did happen to countless others, what still happens despite everything we do. But I also carry something else. Hope, maybe. Purpose, definitely. The knowledge that even in a city designed to consume people, resistance is possible. Survival is possible. Change, however slow, is possible. My name is Marcus Chen. I died on an operating table and came back as something different. Not better or worse, just different. Someone who knows exactly what happens to people who cannot pay their debts in Night City. And someone who fights to make sure fewer people have to learn that lesson the way I did. The work continues. The fight continues. The city continues grinding forward with its million lights and million tragedies. But so do we, and that has to count for something.